Hello. Hello, can you see it, please? Can somebody tell me?
हाँ दिख रहा है आपके redefining current business graph.
Sir, आगे. Okay. So just summarizing from the key learnings from the lockdown. One is maintain war chest for a crisis, ensure good management of cash flows. We have to be competitive, and that we can be by controlling the costs and being productive, collaborate wherever possible, communicate effectively and continuously. Virtual is today's reality. Digital presence is the new norm, and focus on safety, hygiene, and health. These were the key learnings from the webinars during these months, which I've just tried to summarize. And this is a theory of three in COVID times. This also is a fallout of all these webinars which I've just made. It's called a theory of three. Why? I'll tell you. Because three things impacted: medical, financial, and economic. Three scenarios which we need to keep in mind. One is optimistic, one is pessimistic, and one is realistic. There would be three phases. One is before the lockdown, during the lockdown, and after the lockdown. Three aspects of the supply chain which are important. One is the raw material flow, one is the finished goods flow, and one is the cash flow. There would be three war rooms required. One is marketing, supply chain, and funds management. All three war rooms are important. Three material checks: wastage, optimum stocks, and recycling. Three safety mantras: mask, mask, and mask. Social distancing, social distancing, social distancing, and sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Three levels of progression which we have. First, we need to check the liquidity for some months. Then we need to see whether we are having enough profitability, and then would come the growth. So these are the three things which are important. I've just tried to summarize. These are some of the learnings from these webinars conducted so far. Now, what do we normally do at the start of a new calendar year? We either introspect or make lifestyle resolutions. And we know how much we adhere to these lifestyle resolutions. Rarely, in some weeks, again, we try to, we break those resolutions. What do we normally do at the start of a new financial year? We retrospect and make financial plans. And probably what happens is, we do not plan to fail, but we fail to plan properly. That's the problem. What will we do in the financial year 2020-21 once we restart after the lockdown? The first few months, 3-4 months, we'll have to sustain ourselves, survive for the first 3-4 months, and then revive for the next 6 months. Now let us go to the understanding of business model. Let us first understand what we mean by a business model. It's a very simple thing. It's just a company's plan for making profit. It identifies the products and services that we intend to sell, the target markets, and the related expenses and the revenues. We could take examples of great leaders in this. Some companies with great business models. You will understand from that. It's just not the logos, it's the business model which they have. So Apple, Gillette, Zara. I'll just tell you, in short, what business models they have. Now, Zara, for example, it just works as a fast-moving consumer goods. The fashion comes in and goes out very easily. So primarily the targeted at young and middle age, the fashion never goes out of style. It just goes out of stock. So before one order, finishes, the second lot is there. So it never goes out of style. That is its business model. Gillette, which we call as the razor and razor blade model. Here the idea is to sell the razor cheap, but the repeated business of razor blades you get. IKEA offers ready to assemble furniture at such low prices that others won't be able to offer. So it offers a high quality product at a relatively low price. Apple, it wants to give the best user experience. Apple is involved in designing and manufacturing its own operating system, application software, hardware, and services. Walmart, basically it provides wide variety of general merchandise at lower prices. So these are the business models which are followed by leaders. the same way we need to have our business model. Now let us see whether if it is possible to change a business model. There are yet some examples of other companies which have thrived by changing their business model instead of clinging on to those which they started with. Let's see a couple of such companies who really reinvented themselves. Now, Western Union, as you know, first it had started, if you all don't know it, it started as once best known for telegrams. It reinvented itself in money transfer business. Similarly, Facebook first formed for college students with .edu email IDs, was more like a secret society till it changed itself to become the most popular social network in terms of its unique views. So we saw that it is possible to change the business model, and there have been companies who have been successful after changing business model. But we go to what are the elements of making a good business model? One is the bottom line is it has to be profitable. Only a profitable business is an indicator of a viable business model. So that is a bottom line. So bottom line is always the bottom line. First element is the customer value proposition. Helping the customers to get an important job done, give them a competitive advantage based on your core strengths. The second aspect is the profit formula. You have to have your unique profit formula. The costs, every organization has the costs which are intrinsic to it. They are, so all costs are not comparable. So you have to have a revenue model based on your costs and your break-even point and the contribution. Then the third factor is the key resources, the people, technology, facilities, which you should create for the customer. And how do these give us an advantage over others? Then we have the key processes. Your products and services should be able, now these services, which you have, always see that they can be replicated. So when they can be replicated, they are useful for growth. And that is why regular training of people, benchmarking, and standardization becomes important. These are just simple 4 elements of a business model. What happens is, normally, this is the way our customers ordinarily look at us. We are one amongst many. And this is the way our customers should look at us when we have a good business model. You have to stand out amongst all. Now, printing business is going to be different tomorrow. We all know after this, once we restart from the after the lockdown, it is going to be different. Therefore, we will have to be different. In other words, we will have to reimagine, reinvent, restructure, whatever you call it, you name it, ways of doing business. That is why we say redefining the model. Now, redefining of the model would depend upon the following. One is the characteristics, basic intrinsic characteristics of our industry, like changing technology, rising costs, excess capacity which we have, and increasing digitalization. And so many, there may be many. We have to think about these factors. Then special fallout of the COVID-19, such reasons may be disruption. There is going to be a tremendous disruption in the demand as well as the supply. So both elements, demand and supply of a commerce, they are going to get disrupted. There will be changed habits of the consumer. Habits might change. He might try to, they might not spend so much, or they will spend wherever it is necessary. So these habits we'll have to see where they can spend, where they cannot spend. Health and hygiene will become important. Then there can be internal medical emergency. Some of our very good staff members or family members has some medical emergency because of this. Then there are certain economic and external factors also which we need to take into account. There will be a lot of corporate debt crisis. So probably while selecting your customers in future, you'll have to be very selective, because you never know when somebody will go bankrupt, or any of your vendors or whomsoever, like these people, you need to check on the corporate debt crisis. There will be increased unemployment, and this might turn in our favor, because you might get good candidates to be employed in your company, which hitherto these were a little more expensive. You might get them a little cheaper than what they were. High cost of finance and power is one of the major problems. The LIBOR rate, which is hovering around 1%, and we are being lent at around 9 to 10%. So this is a huge difference. This high cost of finance and power comes into play at times of exports, because then our costs are not, as long as we are selling domestically, we are at par. But when we are competing internationally, this becomes a little problem. Then infrastructure, which is not exactly ready. So these are certain factors which our business model will depend on. Then there are some stress points which we have. Consideration will also have to be given to these stress points. One is liquidity. Enough has been spoken on the liquidity. So how do I get that extra liquidity? Managing people. I know salaries, just payment of April salaries has become such a big issue. We would go beyond that. How to keep the teams motivated would become one of the major factors now. After all this, people should be also willing and ready to come to the organization and work positively. So that is one stress point. Customers. How do I keep the customers engaged? How do I keep them engaged? That becomes a point. New opportunities, and in this new normal, how to take the company forward. These are, considering all these points, we have to make our business model. So what do we actually do? First of all, I would say, as Mr. Kamal also said, that Narendra Parchuri said, we are here to make money. Even I would say that. So stop calling ourselves printers first and start calling ourselves businessmen. Think about the mistakes which we have done in the past that put us through setbacks. Consider all these characteristics of the industry and economy and be agile to whatever changes happen. Think about the key learnings during the lockdown. And based on these key learnings, this is going to be the new normal. And most importantly, decide what not to do. Once you decide what not to do, your focus will shift on to what to do. That will come into focus. And there you can call from COVID to vivid. So let us try to go from COVID to a vivid life. This focus, will ordinarily have to be on two things, basically, efficiency and growth. In an aging market, as you know, if you don't grow, you might not have enough business to be efficient. And if you are not efficient, you may not be able to grow. So both are interdependent in that way. Ways to be more efficient could be correct technology, well-defined standard operating procedures and workflow, automation, flexible labor, proper quality, policy, good outsource partners. The next speakers who are going to come would be talking on this, so I'm not wasting much time on this. Ways to grow could be measuring the sales activity with the same passion as you measure the production activity. I've seen a tendency in people, they don't give so much importance to the sales review. So we have to give more importance to the sales activities also. Set a target, plan, act, measure, and adjust better than your competitor. Monitor, plan results, and take action wherever required. And we should target the high growth industries. Now, which are a fallout of the essential industries, we have to keep track which industries will go into growth. And accordingly, we have to readjust our plan. You can either be a product-focused company or a customer-focused company. See, I will tell you a small example here in our line of business. Maybe a person manufacturing tags, and we have one in our audience today. Maybe later on during the question answer session, we can talk to him. He's just manufacturing garment tags. Okay, now in that sense, it becomes a product-focused company. Then another person who is a service provider is providing CTP plates to all the printers. So printers in general become his customers. So he is customer centric. Within an organization also, you may have these, you could call them strategic business units, SBUs they are called. You could have strategic business unit to cater to a different line, a different vertical, so that you can concentrate properly and make a business model depending on the line of business. So you can make strategic business units within the same organization also. The last is the new opportunities. How do I take forward the new normal? You have to have the readiness to press the reset button, learn virtual working, build new relationships, explore different avenues, verticals, Strategic collaborations will become the norm, or maybe formation of clusters for higher technology. Embrace exponential technology and continuous improvement programs. So these are some things which will take us forward. That's all from my side. Thank you. And anything else I would like to, I'll be happy to take it in the question answer session.
Thank you, Udayji, for